start with TESCREAL. A lot of you probably have never heard that term before. It's actually a very new term. And I refer to it as a cult, but that's a little bit misleading. But it's because nothing like it really has ever existed before. How do you package that up? Well, it's easier to package it up and call it a cult because that's really what it is, sort of. It's like a cult 2.0, a unification of many different ideologies that exist within the tech sector, like Silicon Valley. Concepts like transhumanism, which some of you may have heard of. Think Elon Musk and Neuralink, right? Transhumanism, or what they call post-humans, becoming post-human, is basically cyborgs. I mean, we're talking about cyborgs here. These people want to advance the human race to the next evolution, which is cyborg, which is the melding of our biological systems and digital hardware systems. And it sounds like sci-fi. It comes from sci-fi, but it's not. It's real. It's here. It's happening. Now, one could argue that transhumanism has existed for a very long time, and that when you really look at it definitionally, we've been tiptoeing into transhumanism forever. One of the earliest examples would be maybe these, right? Using technology, blending it with the human form in some way to give advancement to the human body. How about this? A watch to tell time, to keep track of time, but it's on your body. It's a wearable. Or like this, a health tracker, wearables, right? These are steps into transhumanism. Could argue that this is something that you're interfacing with your body to advance in different ways. But also you would have things like Neuralink, planted chip in your brain that allows you to interface with computers, right? And this works. Like there's this like paraplegic that is basically a beta tester for it, for Neuralink. And he goes and he plays like COD, and he goes and plays like all these different first person shooters, and he wrecks everybody because his brain is so fast and the Neuralink's response is so quick that he has that edge, that he just looks at the screen and it's boom, 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 boom. It's crazy. Yeah. Transhumanism. It's nuts. There are things like eugenics or next evolution eugenics. There's things like colonizing Mars. I mean, these are things that Elon Musk has openly talked about, right? And so it's like all of these things individually, a lot of them you may have heard of, some of them you may not have, but there are these people that came together and said, well, listen, there are these 7 distinct ideologies, and all of it really sees like the same goals, which is next evolution of humanity, which will happen through a mega loss of human life. And almost all of it intersects with AI. Using AI, basically, we're going to create a super intelligence that then we will be able to have the super intelligence fix all of our problems and create a utopia for us and then turn us into cyborgs. And I know it sounds insane, but this is true. This is real. So when I call TESCREAL a cult, there's also some other things. A cult typically has followers and a charismatic leader. The difference here is that there are followers who are following a leader type figure that doesn't exist yet, that they are creating. This is a new way of thinking made by people who do not believe that they are part of us. They don't think like we're all on the same boat, we're all on the same ship here, right? And they don't care. They don't care if we all die. Just as long as the math checks out that we will have an advanced version 2.0 human later on. And all of these people believe in this. They all may look at it from different angles, and none of them will say, well, I'm a TESCREALian, or however you would say that, right? TESCREALian. TESCREALi? Who knows? But none of them are saying that that's what they are. They're not claiming to be a part of this unified cult. They all buy into one or more of the 7 ideologies that make up TESCREALism. And so they may call themselves whatever it is that they identify with. But we really should understand that all of this is super interconnected. And did anybody see yesterday that Mark Andreessen came out and said that we achieved AGI, artificial general intelligence, essentially the next evolution needed before what would be artificial superintelligence, which is what will probably kill us all? Yeah, he said we achieved that 3 months ago. I don't know if I believe that or not. Now, even if you aren't really super familiar with AI, this is still something that you can follow along with. And I will do my best to explain this in a way that even if you don't understand AI, you got to remember only like 1% of the population of the world has ever even touched AI. Far less do the types of things that I do with AI, and even less do the types of stuff that our developers at Bayer and Webb do with AI. So we're all still very early. We were talking about data centers, and I had kind of been doing some research on it in the front end. We were talking about maybe doing a live stream about it. So I was like, all right, I really want to get like really deep into this, kind of really understand data centers. But my suspicion had always been that this is less about AI and it's more, and not to say AI needs compute to be able to build these next level models. The compute needed is absolutely bonkers. And it really became apparent that all of these people, all these entities are a cult. And I think that to some of these people, data centers are the equivalent of, say, a holy site, that these will be places for us to upload our own consciousness. That is for sure the goal of many of these people, to upload their consciousness, whatever that means, upload their brains into machines, and that's going to be the next level. And they're going to be immortals. I don't think they want that. I don't think they really want that. If you ever watch Black Mirror, you don't want that, dog. There's like 4 episodes of like people's consciousness getting stuck in like an abstract digital hellscape, and it's torturous, dog. For all the little understanding we have of time, our minds, our consciousness, and our bodies are inextricably attached to time. When you erase that, I don't think a theoretical copying of your consciousness could handle that. Like, dog, I can't even go and get an MRI for 10 minutes. I want to die. You didn't tell me. Like, I feel like being in a timelessness would be excruciating. And then I got to be immortal. I can't even fucking kill myself out of this. I think the data centers are for sure part of it. I don't think that the data centers are necessarily going to be the infrastructure needed for uploading our own brains, the few that would. I think it seems as though with all of these different factions, it's about creating our own God, which is AI, and then having God create all of the things that we want. While for some reason they think that this is all going to happen without caring about alignment. Without alignment, how do we know that we have a place in this world after the superintelligence comes? We would be nothing but mere ants to them. Why would they care about us? I don't know. It's really weird. And for sure, there is a lot of weirdness to come. So I've talked a lot about this cult, but I think there are some visuals that I could show you to kind of get you to wrap your brain around it. But again, it is not a unified cult in the sense that you would think of like a leader and followers. It's more like a cult that's building the plane as it's flying. And I think a lot of them don't even realize that they're all sort of going towards the same thing. They probably all think that they're like their ideology is battling the other ideologies to win out in this war. Like they probably all think of it that way, if I'm going to be honest, because they're those types of people. Why don't we look at this? And this broke my brain this morning when I woke up and Claude had this for me. This is a mind map. And this is not even everybody or everything, but this is just what I have so far. Mapping out, again, it is not an organization in the sense that it has a structure, right? Like a normal structure, like you would think of, a normal cult or any operation, right? There really is no structure to it necessarily. There are just all these nodes, all these people, all these things. And I had Claude take all of these people, all of these ideologies in orange, all of these entities, and start mapping it out. And I will be adding to this over time. And yes, I'll probably make this a website, just like whokilledthescientist.com. There is a Jeffrey Epstein connection right in here. Well, actually, it's right there. Right around transhumanism, which again could be a whole live stream in and of itself. Right now, I want you to just kind of wrap your brain around it. I came across this great short video that explains a lot of the structure. And so I think like it's really short and concise, and then we can kind of build off of this, right? Check this out.
Into a really powerful and honestly a pretty controversial new term. It's a word that tries to pin down the belief system that's driving some of the most influential people in big tech. It's called TESCREAL, and well, it might just change the way you see the future they're trying to build.
So let's just start with this question. What do guys like Elon Musk, Sam Altman, and Peter Thiel really have in common? I mean, yeah, they're obviously tech billionaires, changing our world with everything from AI to rockets. But beyond all the money and the power, what's the thread that really connects them?
Critter asked, do you have regularly scheduled lives or just random? So broken from all of this TESCREAL stuff right now. But, well, I'll have to definitely check it out.
Well, a growing number of critics are arguing it's not just about business, it's something deeper, a shared ideology, a very specific set of beliefs about the future that actually guides their biggest decisions, and maybe the direction all of humanity is headed.
And that ideology has been given a name, TESCREAL. It's a new word, coined by computer scientist Timnit Gebru and philosopher Emil P. Torres. They see it as this bundle of different ideas that have all merged into one unified belief system, all pointing toward a radical, tech-driven future. So what's actually in this so-called bundle? Well, it's an acronym, and each letter stands for a different philosophy. You've got transhumanism, extropianism, singularitarianism, cosmism, rationalism, effective altruism, and long-termism. Yeah, it's a mouthful, I know. But the argument is that you need to understand every piece to see the whole picture.
All right, so let's first really unpack the argument for this term. Why do its creators think these aren't just 7 separate ideas, but one single, interconnected bundle? The core claim is that these ideas are all tangled together. Gebru and Torres argue that they have shared roots.
Yes, that's right. It is eugenics 2.0. It would almost be like a techno-fascist eugenics. Well, I guess saying fascist would be a little redundant there. It's a techno-eugenics in one of our last live streams. Sorry about that. But yeah, there's a lot of tech people that are not like these tech futurist, tech eugenicists, right? And they are kind of disengaging. I talked about it, a bit last week. But yeah, it's kind of what's happening, right? And that lends to my theory that there really is becoming this like fracture and divide within the tech world, particularly around Silicon Valley, where it's obvious there's an ideology or a collection of ideologies that's driving everything. And some of the people just aren't on board with that, whether they consciously or unconsciously understand that, and they're exiting out.
And they even trace that lineage back to the deeply controversial eugenics movements of the 20th century. They point to a shared focus on things like optimizing humanity. So in their view, this isn't just a random assortment, it's a movement with a shared and pretty troubling history. And this right here gets to the heart of their criticism. They argue that by constantly talking about the threat of human extinction, whether it's from a rogue AI or some asteroid, adherents can justify doing almost anything. That includes building hugely powerful, unregulated technologies, all in the name of saving us. One way to understand how critics see this is to think of it like a new kind of secular religion. It's got its own version of salvation, like an AI-powered utopia or living forever. It's got its own apocalypse, the evil AI takeover. And it has its own prophets, the tech founders and futurists who are spreading the gospel. Just look at the big debate around super smart AI, or AGI. On one side, you have the accelerationists, who say we have to build it as fast as possible to reach utopia. On the other, you have the doomers, who are terrified it will wipe us all out. But critics of TESCREAL say, look closer. While they seem like opposites, both positions end up justifying the same outcome, pouring endless resources into AI development while ignoring the real problems it's causing right now. Okay, but that's just one side of the coin. A lot of people, especially some who get hit with this label, think the whole idea is totally wrong. They argue that TESCREAL isn't a bundle, it's a bungle. The number one counterargument is that TESCREAL is just a massive oversimplification. Critics like Ozzie Brennan say it wrongly smashes very different, very nuanced philosophies together, creating this image of a monolithic movement that just doesn't exist in reality. And you can really feel the frustration in this quote from Oliver Habreika. He's basically saying, wait, what? I'm supposedly part of this big movement with cosmists, but I've never even met one. It really highlights how the label can feel like it's just making up connections that aren't there. So to quickly sum up the pushback, critics say the term is unfair. It ignores real contradictions between these philosophies, and it genuinely shocks people, like effective altruists who are focused on global poverty, to find themselves linked with something like eugenics. It feels so disconnected to some that they've straight up called it a conspiracy theory. So, this isn't just some abstract academic debate, right? This term is being aimed directly at some of the most powerful people in the world. So let's look at who we're actually talking about.
This video does a really great job, even though she's just doing Notebook LM slides and talking over it and has 2 subscribers. I think I just became her third. I think she does like a really great job of like concisely explaining this. And so it's almost over, but I really just think that because you guys know me, I could very easily get onto tangents and then try to get you just this content, and it would take me all day. I don't want to do that to you. I just want you guys to, again, the whole goal of this live stream is to just get you guys caught up on like what it is conceptually and what kind of threat this really does have on our world. And then we can start in later live streams really digging into these different claims, and looking into these people and what they really believe. And it's fucking crazy. It's really crazy. I wish this was like a mostly fake, like fun conspiracy theory, but this is like extinction level potentially. It really is like that.
First up, the venture capitalist Mark Andreessen. His big techno-optimist manifesto, which is this call to just accelerate technology at all costs, has been held up by critics as like the perfect textbook example of the TESCREAL mindset. Then, of course, there's Elon Musk. I mean, he himself has said his personal philosophy is a close match to long-termism. That's the L in the acronym. And when you look at his companies, like Neuralink trying to merge brains with computers, or XAI's mission, they're often seen as the embodiment of these ambitions. Peter Thiel is another major figure in this conversation. He's often seen as someone who wants to tear down regulations, especially anything that slows down technological progress, all to speed up our path toward what some would call a technotopian paradise. And you can't have this conversation without talking about Sam Altman. That whole drama when he was fired from OpenAI back in 2023.
Sam Altman is a sociopath and a pathological liar. He has all sorts of paths. He's a fucking insane, really, really insane person and should not be at the forefront of this emerging technology. That's just one man's opinion.
Many people interpreted that as a battle between different factions within this very belief system, with both Altman and the board representing different shades.
Scotty says he's a fucking murderer. I mean, he definitely called for Satya Balaji's murder. 100%. The way he squirmed when Tucker Carlson talked to him about that, I mean, and not to mention, like, he like at 12 years old was like graping his 4-year-old sister until she was a teen. Allegedly. I should put like allegedly just like right there. I should just like put that right there. And it always just says allegedly. So I don't have to say it all the time because I forget to say it. But let's be real. Allegedly.
Of TESCREAL ideas. And finally, Sam Bankman-Fried. As maybe the most famous effective altruist in the world, the absolutely spectacular implosion of FTX put that movement, its ethics, and its weird associations under an incredibly intense microscope. Okay, so after hearing both sides of this, you have to step back and ask the really big question. What is TESCREAL, really? And why should we care about this strange-sounding acronym? It really just boils down to this. Is TESCREAL a bundle, a real coherent ideology that gives us a new way to understand the future that Silicon Valley is building for all of us? Or is it a bungle, a totally flawed and misleading label that just smears people and creates connections that aren't actually there? And that's really the question we're all left with. Is this term a critical lens that helps us see what's really going on? Or is it a dangerous label that's just making a complex reality even harder to understand? How we answer that might just decide how we engage with the people who are building our future.
I think for us to understand things, right? Like we need to know our enemy, right? We need to know what it is. We need to name it, right? And that's why I feel absolutely fine with referring to it almost as a singular entity, even though it really is multiple. But to understand your enemy, you first need to name it. And so calling it an acronym like this that represents all of the different subparts that are the danger, this is what we should know. This is what we should do. And I think it's beneficial. Is it confusing? Sure. It would still be confusing without the acronym TESCREAL. That's just my take on it. You tell me, though. It's a big club, and you're not in it. It's almost like we're the digital Goyim in this analogy, which is also not as much of an analogy as you would think. I'm not going to go deep into it, but I have done a lot of research on Israel's direct or indirect connections here. And I gotta do more research. I gotta start really wrapping my brain around the structure of it before we do a live stream about it.